Hello everybody, this is of course Nick Dutch back on the camera again, reporting behind enemy lines. Well actually no I'm not, I'm sitting in my flat in a rather boring part of the world where people do really rather boring things, so I'm terribly sorry to disappoint you. I can't really try and big this up into a big massive dramatic thing. I'm just a guy who's interested in some weird stuff that I personally think happens to be really rather normal and ordinary. Now, I've been asked about my experiences with sharing dreams with people. Now, I have mentioned that in the history of this channel quite a few times. There is only a certain number of times in which you can say the same thing over and over again without it seeming jaded. Okay, I do try and carry on repeating the main core of my personal message on the subject of things related to what people call the occult, New Age, pagan, occultism, and all that kind of jazz, because that's the important bit. Okay, that's the bit that people forget because people tend to go on to flights of fantasy as to, I've had a strange experience, therefore, you know, and all of the is often a bit badly thought out. It isn't necessarily true. It's people come out with these strong beliefs as if they're hard and fast facts of the way the universe works. That creates lots of little cults and that does a lot of damage. Okay, so that's why I carry on promoting the same main message about what I think is true about the phenomenon, namely there's strange experiences, they happen, therefore they are real, therefore they're connected to some kind of natural phenomena within the universe, but we can't really say anything about it because a strange experience only proves that a strange experience can occur. And that goes with dream telepathy as well. So what I'm going to try and do right now is talk a little bit more uh, about how, the kind of like hows and whys, because that's what's really important as far as I'm concerned, because you want to have the experience yourself. Okay, the the only thing that I can say that seems to string all these things together is alpha theta meditation. So we're talking about a slow, contemplative, meditative state of mind, and not a state of euphoria, usually speaking. Okay, that's the way it seems to be. Focusing a lot in that tranquil way upon the individual with a passive emotion seems to be a part of it, if you can get it. And of course, you can't, or when you're doing meditation, you try and hit a certain note of frequency, for want of a better word. It's like hitting a certain specific mood because it's like an emotion. It's like a mood. Every single time you have a mood, thought, feeling, and you feel it in your body and in your mind, that's the way I see it. A different combination of brainwave activities, brain chemical activities, internal organ functioning, and so on and so forth. So you can experience the same thing in the real normal world, okay, twice, and you may have a different emotional response to it because your body can be different, your mind can be different, your brain can be different, and all these things acting, to stop you from maybe enjoying or experiencing the same thing in different ways under different circumstances. Okay, as well as, of course, the issue of growth, getting used to things, and so on and so forth. But it's when you're deliberately trying to bring these things about, which is very hard and you can't always get the note right. When you're there, it feels different. It's almost as if you got a feeling of some kind of connection with the idea, with the state of mind, with the person you're trying to communicate with the message you're trying to get to them, and the thing you're trying to share with them. And it's not necessarily immediately testable. I mean, sometimes you can have a normal dream, all right, but you don't remember it fully until a few days later anyway. Because I know, maybe you need to like get out of that state of mind and get into it again through memory or something like that. Sometimes you can remember it straight away, sometimes you can't. And so it can be very difficult. But it is worthwhile I mean, the way I see it, if you build up a strong bond with somebody, it becomes easier. An emotional bond, a friendship bond. If there's someone you really like, it can be a lot easier. If there's someone you hate, or you're afraid of, then you get a different response. I mean, a fear response can give you something which seems like, sensing their aura, sensing their energy or their state of mind or something else going on with them up here or in here. All right, but it isn't necessarily being able to do things deliberately. That's more like reactive if you're in a state of fear or anxiety from somebody. If there's someone who disgusts you, then that's another issue as well, because you may end up projecting negativity to them, or that's the way it feels. That's the description of the emotion. It doesn't mean to say that there is like all these blobs of black crap that you're throwing at them. I mean, maybe that is the case, I don't know, but it feels as if disgust towards the target person you're trying to communicate with will influence things in a negative way for you personally. And essentially, if they are receptive, the only thing they will pick up is that sense of disgust coming from you. So if you're trying to work on communicating a message to someone, this is just the way it seems. I'm just talking off the top of my head on the basis of experiences. You've got to have gone through sufficient, I suppose, for want of a better phrase, self-development as far as your emotional structure is concerned towards that person, so that you don't sort of like project anything negative and you're not in a state of fear and it's just like a state of passive, I want to communicate this message kind of thing. Um, and you're doing it in a bodily state of relaxation and a mental state of relaxation. You could probably do it in some forms of expanded spiritual states as well, sort of like a, transcendental consciousness type states of mind. But that would again seem to work differently. These things can't be properly I want to say is properly understood, but of course that puts too much of a sharp spin on the whole thing, doesn't it? And I don't think it is a question of proper understanding. It's a question of developing a intimate, emotional, experiential understanding of the subject, so that you can then start to think about, well, what was it that did this? And if you are to try and communicate it to somebody else who's not experienced in doing it, then you might struggle to get the words out that they would actually understand. Okay, and if you do try and explain it to them, it will only be in a comparatively simplistic manner. And of course, there's always the people who are very empathic, sensitive people anyway, who are, so it seems, very good at having the experiences, but lousy at explaining them because they lack the intellectual resources to be able to, explain, evaluate, and all the rest of that based on what they've been through, what they've gone through, to the point whereby things can actually sort of like work out according to plan. So there's a lot of difficulty going on with using language effectively when talking about these things. You have to play around with it and practice it. Find someone in your local area who you like, who you know wouldn't mind talking with you. And maybe you've already arranged, so it's nothing special about that, so they won't suddenly be spooked that, oh, okay, this person's invited me out for a nice cup of tea this weekend, what's this all about? Okay, so it's someone you've already arranged to have a nice cup of tea with, or to meet in a party, and then, as when you do finally meet them, then you get onto the subject of dreams, and then they may say something like, I had this really weird one a couple of nights ago, and I saw you dressed like this, and this in this situation, and that can be connected to the experience of trying to deliberately generate the dream. Now, you can do it when you're asleep in a dream which is close to being lucid, or you can do it in your deep meditation. That's the way it seems to me. Okay, as I said, you can also try your transcendental type spiritual meditation, sort of one with God type, weird experience. The R sound meditation. That's an interesting way of doing it. But I think that's a different state of mind. I think that's a different brainwave frequency. I think that's more like gamma. But there are apparently some particular frequencies which I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, are harmonics of the Schumann resonance, which can be used for anomalous effects. I'd have to go back to researching the transcorp.com neuroprogrammer website if I'm going to state that as a fact. It's somewhere there or in their forum. But there are some gamma brainwave frequencies where anomalous stuff happens, and it's also the state on the edge of starting the astral projection experience. Okay, I've done the experience of astral projection before, and I've actually used that when I was projected to, reach out and concentrate on a person when I was basically actually projected in their bedroom, and then hey presto, there was a dream experience, and I heard them talking about this weird dream they had to a friend of theirs without me prompting them, without them knowing I'd done the experiment, and I heard them talking precisely about the same dream I'd constructed, which was oh fuck. Shit, I did that. It's when they report it without prompting at all, and they don't know that you've done it, and they don't know you're into all this stuff. That you can say that something, there's something going on there. That's what really excites me. Okay, because that's the thing which can demonstrate to you on a personal experiential level that something's happening. Now, when you try and do it in more like a laboratory type experiment, when you say to someone, right, okay, I'm going to try and project to you and share a dream with you. The way it seems to me is that if they know it, they may. It's almost like they can like put up a shield or something, or block up some part of themselves somehow, and sort of like restrict you from going in, unless of course they're already sort of meditative people who've got like a strong feeling of like a bond or kinship with you somehow, and they're happy to let you in. Uh, so getting that kind of like thing right, the social dynamic with the person you're trying to share dreams with telepathically, I think is actually a very important component to the whole experience. Okay, it is possible that there's some meditative states you can get into, in which case you're naturally open to receive shit. Okay, and there's some kind of evidence in the anecdotal section of Peter J. Carroll, Lieber Null, and Psychonauts, which will kind of like go into that when he's talking about firing off a bolt of energy at someone and they felt it, and doing the same sorts of thing with I think it was a Tibetan or Buddhist monk, and yeah, he showed it in his behavior that he felt it, and that's because they were perpetually in meditation. I'm of the opinion that people who are truly like meditative with their religiosity are also much more likely to have the strange experiences, and much more likely to be receptive to your some kind of auric or spiritual type boom thing happening. So maybe there's some religious people that you can try and project to and play around with. But also try and think about your own ethics and your own morality when you're trying to do it. You don't want to go and like assault someone or make them unhappy. I actually think there is a certain level of morality there which you could, should, would, or might need to, or might want to actually deploy, just to make sure you don't upset someone or give someone a bad experience, because you don't want to do that. Okay, when you're younger, you're a bit hormonal. You'll probably do it. Probably do something negative, or you feel something negative, because like being young, you're full of all kinds of twisted emotions anyway. So I'm really glad I'm pushing 40, because I'm much more, than I was even like about 5 years ago. When I was like 17, my emotions were all over the place. Okay, so I'm glad to be getting on a bit in some respects. So maybe that's another reason why some people develop some forms of spirituality when they're approaching middle age, because like they're already automatically less hormonal, so they're more capable of experiencing or understanding or intellectually and emotionally understanding concepts which are approaching the spiritual. And of course, tons of people get it wrong and just move into the whole dogma doctrine stuff. And others become like lunatic fundamentalists of this, that, and the other, and so on and so forth. Because humans are crazy. Okay, we are. Okay, I'm a human. I know it. I'm crazy. Okay, but I'm not as crazy as a lot of other humans. Despite all the weird and wonderful stuff that I get into left, right, and centre. So either way. Look after yourself. That's a few thoughts for today from the wild and reckless mind of the great and glorious, soon to be famous one day Nick Dutch. Look after yourself. Keep cool. Don't panic. The world's not going to come to an end. And tea is one of the greatest drinks on the face of the planet. Look after yourself.